The highly anticipated rematch between the two participants of the SEC championship game is scheduled to take place September 18th at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Alabama and Florida are both coming off really like checkmark seasons in my opinion from 2020. Alabama winning really with one of their most dominant teams in their own history winning a national title, and then Florida having very high preseason expectations, finally getting over the Georgia hump, and Dan Mullen reaching his first SEC championship game, kind of bringing Florida back into the fold for the SEC conversation, finishes in a kind of disappointing 8-4 season for the amount of talent and offense that they had. So I'm going to break down this matchup, what I think it means, what I think will be the outcome, both short-term and long-term. But before that, I'm just going to give a little bit of background on the starters that are returning and just all of that jazz. So in the SEC, Alabama is obviously the top dog, and I think will be the preseason number one team entering the 2021 season. They return a good amount of starters, I'd say around 10, and you got new offensive coordinator Bill O'Brien, who's going to be calling the offense. However, you return a great amount of your defense in Alabama, and you return coordinators Charles Kelly and Pete Golding, 4 offensive returning starters, and then you have 9 defensive returning starters projected according to ESPN's post-spring rankings, in which they have Alabama at number 2. You do lose Mac Jones, Najee Harris, Devonta Smith, Jalen Waddle, the list goes on, Patrick Surtain, but you do have, Alabama has gotten consistently the number 1 recruiting class, I think, every previous year, except for 2020 and I believe 2018, in which Georgia then had the number 1 recruiting class. And basically ESPN's outlook puts it very well. Georgia might appear more talented on paper. Oklahoma might be more explosive on offense. And Ohio State and Clemson have easier paths. But until someone knocks the defending national champions off their perch, you got to go with Alabama winning the SEC at minimum, or winning it all at most. That's kind of the line here. Alabama and Nick Saban, this is what I'm going to leave Alabama with, is they figured out how to implement LSU's offensive scheme from 2019. It's why everyone's comparing the two teams. Nick Saban perfectly took what he saw beat him, and he used it to win him another national title. And I think seeing how he perfected what LSU already perfected, but copied it, and knowing how he is the greatest coach in all of college football, I'm going to go as far to say that they are going to repeat. And that means that Saban will win his eighth national title this year. Florida, on the other hand, Florida is a much different story. Florida finished last year outside of the top 10. They finished 8-4. They do return a similar amount of returning starters, 5 on offense, 7 on defense. Again, like Alabama, they don't have as many starters in their strong suit. Both were very strong in offense and at times questionable in defense. Florida was dreadful in defense, it's good in the sense that they returned 7 starters. They returned more starters in the area they struggled in on defense, and Todd Grantham is going to have to figure himself and his defense out if he wants to keep his job next year. You got 5 on offense. Quarterback Emory Jones, I expect to be the starter. He passed for 221 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Was the backup. He was put in the game against Oklahoma when Trask was benched after throwing 3 interceptions. And yeah, to sum that up, it looks like from all the key losses, You do have some of the offensive line returning, which will be a good thing. And Emory Jones does have much better legs than Kyle Trask, so expect to see. I don't want to make a Tim Tebow comparison here, but expect to see a little bit more running and less of a pass-heavy offense. It'll probably be a more balanced offense, which will help because that was one of the weaknesses last year for Florida, in my opinion. I didn't see them run much, and they really had to rely on that pass-heavy offense. And the bowl game with Oklahoma really did expose that. Without their talented wide receivers, their offense was nothing. But I think that'll change this year. I think Mullen is a great coach. I think he's the best coach in the SEC East. That might be pretty topical, but I think especially how he beat Georgia, who was a far more talented team last year. He put it to him. I think that kind of proves it. And Brian Johnson is off to the NFL. That's their offensive coordinator. So both of these teams lose their offensive coordinators. They lose the bulk of their offensive production. So it will be interesting to see how these two offenses go in, especially since these two teams will likely be undefeated and are honestly playing teams that are nowhere near their competition leading up to this game. So it will be a very interesting showdown. Now, on to how the game will go. I think, again, I can't pick against Alabama here. Alabama, you have, I don't even think there's an official offensive coordinator for Florida yet. But Bill O'Brien, I think, will be one of the better OCs in the country. He's an excellent offensive mind. He was at the New England Patriots. He took a Penn State program that was broken and used it to beat teams that had far more advantages. He just tried to do too much. That's why he failed at Houston. People want to write him off as a dolt or an idiot, and you just can't do that because some people can. There are geniuses that exist, and they can only do so much. You can't. Everyone is the same 24 hours, and some people just can't manage it as well or haven't learned to manage it as well as others, and that's what got him in trouble in Houston. He tried to be Bill Belichick, and not to get off topic here, but many Patriot assistants do this, and it doesn't work because not everyone is Bill Belichick. He forgot that his main job was the head coach. But I think he'll be amazing at Alabama. I think this was an excellent hire, and I think the offense will be ran very well. Again, with 9 defensive starters returning, Alabama's defense might be the best overall in the country, especially with Henry To'oTo'o coming in at linebacker. You'll probably have the best linebacker group in the country, even though you had a great linebacker lost and go to the NFL. So Alabama will probably have one of the better or best defenses. They'll probably retain having one of the better or best offenses. I have to pick Alabama here. Now, here's the caveat for this game in general. If you're a Florida fan, how well you compete with Bama. You don't have to beat them, in my opinion, to get a feel with how you are in the SEC championship game race. Because Florida returns less starters, they have less talent. They're going to show more improvement as the season goes on, whereas Alabama will probably be consistent. They'll both get better as the season goes on, but Florida being more inexperienced will see more drastic growth as we go on. The question is, if Florida plays Bama close, they may have a good chance at causing chaos in the SEC East, and hear me out, we know how Kirby Smart is in big games. If Florida shows promise against Alabama, your hope as a Florida fan shouldn't be in this game, but you should watch this game, and depending on if you compete, well, maybe only lose by a touchdown, 14 points, maybe even the slim chance of winning if especially if the defense is very good and performs much better than last year. You certainly need to be thinking, after losing this game, you can't have your hopes down, because then you have to be thinking, okay, how did we do, and how does this translate to fighting Georgia? And I think that Alabama will win. They'll probably win in dominant fashion, maybe not by the scoreboard, but I think it will be at minimum a 2-score win, probably max a 3-score win. I have Florida being a pretty good team next year. And I do have them losing to Georgia, but my last thing that I want to say is to dismiss and write off Florida, and I said this in one of my other videos, is a grave, grave mistake. And again, Florida can prove that they're still in the SEC championship game race if they are competitive with Alabama, because, again, Kirby Smart last year in the big games, he literally crapped his pants every big game. He choked against Alabama. They were up 14-0, dominating Florida. They blew that and got destroyed by a team with really no defense, and they almost blew it again against a Group of 5 team in the Peach in the Peach Bowl. So there is a great chance, and if you compete with Bama well, if you lose by like a hair, then Georgia fans should be worried. But the outlook for both of these teams in general, I think after this game, Florida will easily get 10 wins, 9-10 wins in the regular season. They'll likely win their bowl game. I think they'll learn their lesson this year. And then Alabama, again, I have them being repeat national champions, and at minimum they will reach the playoff and likely win the SEC. I don't see them losing to Georgia simply because Nick Saban is at his prime. No, he's not slowing down, and he's undefeated against former assistants. And I think the first assistant to beat him will likely be in his own division, just because you play each other every year, and in order to get to the championship game as an extra motivator, you have to beat Alabama. Georgia doesn't have that extra motivator. They can just get there and they don't have to face Alabama every year. They don't learn as much from Alabama every year. And that's all I have for today. If you liked this video, please like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can watch more of my videos. I just had to put this video out here because I thought this rematch would be interesting. There are going to be plenty of conference predictions coming out soon. This week was very hectic, and I apologize for once again delaying the conference prediction videos, but they're going to be coming out first for the Power 5, and then maybe I'll do some Group of 5 conferences as well, and some breakdowns of my top 25, which I've finished for a while, but I want to get some other of my expert friends' top 25s in just to kind of compare, and I'll share those in a video too. Again, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, comment below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.